All right, so let's get into some of the clips. So apparently, Destiny had a major meltdown here when it came to his lawsuit. He's really flipping out on everybody, kind of raging impotently at everybody on the internet. Now, one thing I mentioned is that you have to be very careful when you get into these situations, particularly lawsuits, because you start getting into a situation where you could be sanctioned by the court, where other people could bring other charges, where you start defaming people. And one person that has been involved in this, JSTLK, once again, I don't know these people personally. I don't know their histories. I don't know their beefs. That's beyond me. But I did see a clip here where he's very close to what could constitute criminal behavior, right? Or encouragement of criminal behavior. Let's play this here for you guys, and let's let you listen through this clip from his chat.
For all of it. It's pretty cringe. It's pretty gross. I expect the behavior from Kiwi Farms. It is what it is. Like I said, communities like that will always exist. But it's really gross when people like Gisticle, whose information I hope I can find soon, are like trying to amplify or put a magnifying glass on info over there and then have it spread into the other world. That's just wild to me. But
so what I heard there, and let's play this one more time. Like let's play the pertinent part here.
Really gross when people like Gisticle, whose information I hope I can find soon.
So not direct, once again indirect. So clever enough on Destiny's part. He didn't say directly what he was going to do with that, but the implication there is that he was going to dox this guy or put his information out to his people, his simps, his chat, and get them to go after him, brigade him, perhaps directly encourage violence. Who knows? I mean, at this point, it seems like that's a veiled threat. That comes off as a veiled threat. Now, if it's for service or process, he doesn't need to say that. He doesn't need to do that. If it's just, oh, I'm going to get their information, or oh, I'm going to find their information, or I'm going to find their information to serve them, that might be one thing, and that could be the implication there if you take it in the light most favorable to Destiny. But it doesn't sound good on the other hand, because it could be an implied threat. It could be an implied violence, and it could also be putting that out to the Discord, which, to be fair, has been what's happened in the past where this information gets to the Discord, things get out of hand, things get moved over to another level. So whatever that is, I would be careful with that. And that's genuine advice to Destiny, to not say, hey, I'm going to go get this person in that way, make that implication. If it is solely for the purpose of serving them a lawsuit, that's fine. And you could say, I'm looking for his address so I can serve him with a lawsuit, and clarify that. But coming off that way sounds like a little bit of a tough guy stance in terms of I'm going to sick my people on you. That's against the terms of service. If you're encouraging brigading, which, by the way, a lot of these things, a lot of these people and a lot of these the content creators, they often inadvertently encourage that by saying, hey, everybody go over there and comment, right? You should never say that as a content creator because that's against terms of service, right? And it's very interesting, right, how people will talk about these things and insinuate them, and then all of a sudden people end up in the comments. I don't think that's a mistake, right? I don't think that's something that just magically happened. I think that's something that perhaps was instigated, perhaps behind the scenes. And that's something people should be aware of, because in the future, I think there's going to be a harsher crackdown on this. Right now, unfortunately, as I've said, we still have a lot of, and I don't mean this with any disrespect, I know a lot of boomers take this the wrong way, but we have a lot of older justices that don't understand technology. And I think as they are replaced by people who do understand technology, particularly like Gen X, at least, or above, as they slide in there to replace that generational gap, they're going to be native to technology, and they're going to understand these things and say, yeah, of course, if you make a threat over a Discord, or if you use a Discord to coordinate activities against somebody, yeah, that's a problem. And yeah, we're going to go after that. And yeah, we're going to prosecute that, because that's still the same as we would if you had a bunch of people in a room and you gathered them in a meeting room and you said, hey, we're all going to do this. That would be a criminal conspiracy. But we have a lot of judges that struggle to think about this, that struggle to understand this, that's really the digital commons, and that the digital commons should be treated like the commons in terms of these things. So I think that will happen in the future. I mean, we're seeing that now, even with the new administration coming into the government. We see a lot of the older generational officials being replaced by younger folks who understand the stuff better. I think it will happen in time, but that said, that's one that, look, if I'm Destiny, I would be careful about. Now, I was laughing at this next one. This next one's kind of funny because Destiny calls out lawyers that are covering a suit. Now, I'm aware there's a separate clip of Sean, but of course, I'm narcissistic. He does mention me at one point, I guess. I think his chat was kind of prompting him to it. So let's listen to this one. This one is golden.
I don't know. There was some guy in a suit who's been doing things. Most of the legal analysis is just really, really, really bad. I don't know. Again, I don't know what it is about lawyers. It's like worse than like people that call themselves like soft, like I'm a full stack dev. And it's like, what the fuck do you mean full stack dev? And it's like, well, I made a website once and on WordPress and I know how to get information out of a database sometimes. Okay, very full stack. Like just the most random shit. The lawyer people are the same thing. Some of the commentary is so bad. Like it's actual, the legal mindset guy. Yeah.
Yeah, legal mindset.
I don't know if these guys just don't do criminal or if it's just lawyers in general are fucking retarded. I mean, they are some of the worst people that I've seen. They are some of the worst people that I've seen on the internet, just in terms of like general knowledge. The answer, the real answer is that when you graduate school, you just won't remember everything from school, which is fair. Like if you graduate, or I should say tort. I shouldn't say criminal. Well, no, because some of these things are supposedly criminal.
What is it? What is it, Destiny? Oh, master of law school. Where'd you get your law degree again? Oh, is that the law degree of Wikipedia? Is that the law degree of Google? Let's get to it. I'll finish before I comment. I'll let you finish.
When you graduate school, you don't remember every single individual thing from school, which is fine. But for some reason, every lawyer pretends that they do. Like, oh yeah, like I can give you the full breakdown on this, and it's like, what do you do for work? And it's like nothing even remotely related for decades on any of it. Yeah.
Oh God. So funny. Okay, so that's Destiny there. That was funny. That was some grade A cope. And by the way, during that, the chat was going crazy. The chat was like, what did they say here? Legal mindset. The weeb lawyer? Balthazar was like, the weeb lawyer? I guess I am known on the streets as the weeb lawyer now. And I am officially accepting this. So we're going to get into it, and this is, of course, some of the areas that were brought up by folks as they were talking about the Destiny lawsuit. And I've coupled this together with Ashley St. Clair, really because, well, it's all ETH law, right? Okay, so first ETH, we got, of course, Destiny. We've got Destiny here. So we've got, of course, a situation where, and I did replace the Niji Sanji meme here. This, I think, has gotten around a little bit, but it's still very valid. He is streaming a whole lot on this. And I think the very basic advice here would be to just shut up. And I think that's from almost all lawyers. You shouldn't be talking about your case. And you also shouldn't be going out and picking a fight with people that might be involved in your case or might be witnesses to your case. I think that is very silly. I think that's very reckless. And I think right now that's not a good strategy. He should just go on creating content. And yes, he's already addressed it. He's already said what he's got to say. I don't think he has to say more to satiate his audience. His believers, trust me, they were brigading my comments, which I think is against terms of service. I mean, I think it was a violation of terms of service for Destiny to direct his followers or seemingly push them towards brigading chats and going towards people like Sean, potentially a criminal, and myself, and getting in their comments, getting in their chat. I think that might be against TOS, maybe. But that said, I think you should just go on doing content. Whatever you do, go talk about politics, go talk about polyamory and how that's totally awesome and totally has worked out for you. I mean, all that sort of stuff. Don't focus on your lawsuit itself. Now, this is a big one because a lot of people in the comments were focused on this as if it was a single cause of action. And to understand, a cause of action is a reason to be in court. So you only need one. That could be, for example, negligence. Negligence is a cause of action. If you have one claim of negligence, that's enough to be in court. Here, in this complaint, which is Pixie against Destiny, there are four. There are four causes of action. Only one of these needs to stand, needs to survive what's called a motion to dismiss, which is a motion which Destiny will file if he has any competent attorney at all. Even if he's pro se, he'd probably Google it in Wikipedia and figure out you have to file a motion to dismiss. So he'd probably try to motion to dismiss these claims. If one of them survives, it proceeds to discovery, which is when you get to look into emails, you get to look into Discord, you get to look into phone records, you get to look into all sorts of things, take depositions. One of these things has to survive. This is why I said initially, this is a very tough case for him. Yes, I think it's possible, and this is me giving Destiny credit, that one or more of these might not survive a motion to dismiss. It could be that 2 or maybe even 3 are knocked out, but I don't think all 4 are knocked out on a motion to dismiss. I just don't see that happening at this point. So let's go into what these are. So what are these different causes of actions? Remember, this is a civil suit, not criminal, although some causes of action are civil actions, civil rights actions, authorized by the criminal statute. So essentially, what can happen is under a criminal statute, it can say there is a civil right of action or a cause of action that an individual who is wronged in this way can bring. It's independent of the crime itself. So proving someone guilty of that civil cause of action or right of action, some of it's called a private right of action. There's different names for it. But that proof, that standard of proof, does not prove the crime. So it does not make him a criminal. So there are 4. The first one is 15 USC 6851. This is a federal cause of action for a civil action for disclosure of intimate images. Now we're going to break all of these down in detail. I have broke these down in a separate stream, but we didn't have the actual complaint yet, so we didn't know which specific one. So I went over like 7, and they used 4 out of the 7. Actually, they only really used 2. 3. They used 3. I didn't cover IIED. I didn't include IIED in my previous analysis, intentional infliction of emotional stress. So this is largely it's a old analysis that's been polished up in a new analysis as well. Florida statute 784.049, cyber harassment. Now, this is a newer statute. This is not one that's been around for as long. However, it is something that you can bring a private cause of action for cyber harassment. So that allows individuals to bring that cause of action. You have IIED, intentional infliction of emotional distress. This has been around forever. Now, what this means has changed, and the permissiveness of claims has changed. It used to be with intentional infliction of emotional distress that you had to literally see somebody dying, right? So you had to watch somebody get killed in order to have IIED. That has changed. That is no longer the case. We're no longer in those days we had to watch your family member die. But that said, it still has a barrier, and there still is a significant amount you have to prove to get past that. Then you have invasion of privacy, which is public disclosure of private facts. That's also something that's been in the common law for a long time, rooted in our privacy rights, but we have more specific parameters as we have a lot of court cases involving that. So let's get into it. Let's start with number 1. Okay, so we have number 15 USC section 6851, which is disclosure of intimate images. To read out what it entails, it really entails an individual whose intimate visual depiction is disclosed in or affecting interstate or foreign commerce, or by using any means or facility of interstate or foreign commerce, which would include digital, by the way, without the consent of the individual, where such disclosure was made by a person who knows that or recklessly disregards whether that person has consented to such disclosure and allows them to bring a civil action. It is, of course, federal. So this is the first one. And note what it does here. And we're gonna go through all of these and what intent they require. But the intent is not intent to be an asshole. It's not intent to be mean. It's not intent to torture them. The intent is that the person hasn't consented and you are intentionally releasing it or recklessly releasing it. So the question for this one will be, was it intentional or reckless when he released it to Rose or whoever else he released it to? When this was released, was that reckless? The releasing of that. Not whether he had to hate her, but was the action itself. reckless because he knew there was no consent. Because if he thought, so for example, let me steel man Destiny. Let me give Destiny's best case here. Let me give Destiny's best case. Destiny could argue, and this is me, once again, I'm doing the lawyer thing where we argue both sides, right? I'm defending you, Destiny. This is my defense of you, Destiny. Let's say that Destiny has a text message from Pixie, and it says, baby doll, Destiny, Tiny, you can release this to anybody you want. I don't care who you show this to. He like, let's say it's like Nick Rekieta level exhibitionism. Like, you can show this to whoever I want. In fact, she might say to him, hey, Destiny, I know you have sort of this fetish or whatever else for being exposed. So you can expose it to whoever you want. You can show it to whoever you want. And he has that in writing. Well, then that's consent. Then he's got consent. Here's another one. A lot of people in the comments, a lot of Destiny lovers in the comments were saying, well, what happens if she was sending these images out herself? Well, if she was sending them out willingly herself, let's say that Pixie was sending nudes to everybody and she sent this exact same nude to 300 people and she was mass mailing it out. That might be something to consider. That could be something to consider. And he knew about that. He knew she was mass mailing it out. Yeah, okay, that could be something to consider. Right. In terms of the analysis of consent. Because there could be an implication that there was an implied consent to send it to a wider audience if this was a behavior that they were doing. Now, I haven't seen any proof of that so far. I've seen zero proof of any of that so far. So steel manning Destiny done. I have not seen any proof that she said, yeah, baby, you can send my photos to whoever you want. I haven't seen that yet. If he's got it, he should give it to his lawyer and bring it up in the case. That's that one. Let's go to the next one. We've got the Florida statute. Now, this is a big one. So a lot of people in the comments, a lot of Destiny simps were saying, well, the case is bunk. The case is dead because this statute requires intent. And he may not have this level of intent. And I just want to be very clear. This is one of the claims. So even if this one is thrown out, which there's a possibility, there is a possibility. This one of all the claims has the best to be thrown out. The case wouldn't go away. But let's read what this is. Let me not get ahead of myself too far. So under the statute for sexual cyber harassment, a person depicted in a sexually explicit image taken with consent retains a reasonable expectation of an image despite sharing the image with another person. So just because you've sent a nude to your intimate partner, to your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your wife, your husband, or your wife's lover, like Aaron a multi situation, right? That doesn't mean you necessarily give up that reasonable expectation of privacy. You would still have some sort of expectation of privacy. It's not completely public just because you shared it with a intimate partner or a sexual partner. However, a person who willingly and maliciously cyber harasses another person commits a misdemeanor of the first degree. Cyber harassment means to publish an explicit image, explicit, without their consent, contrary to the depicted person's expectation that the image will remain private for no legitimate purpose with the intent of causing substantial emotional distress to the depicted person. So I'm going to give the Destiny defense here. This particular cause of action requires Pixie to prove that Destiny had the intention to inflict emotional distress upon her. Not just a little bit, substantial. Not just ancillary or accidental, that he intended to inflict emotional distress. This is the highest level of intent that's required of all four. It's significant. And is it possible she doesn't get there? Yes. Is it possible she does prove it? Yes. We haven't seen discovery. We haven't seen what's out there. We don't know yet whether she can prove this. I can't say whether this is completely dead in the water or not. All I can say is this is the hardest for her and the easiest for Destiny to defeat. All right. Next, we have IIED, good old intentional infliction of emotional stress. Now, these are the elements. The elements of intentional infliction of emotional stress are very basic across all states. You have to act intentionally or recklessly. So reckless is enough. So In Destiny's case, let's say we can't get intense. Let's say we can get that what he did was reckless. Okay. Next, here's the kicker. You have to approve his actions as extreme and outrageous. They have to be extreme and outrageous. Not a little bit bad. Not, okay, maybe he shouldn't have done that. Extreme and outrageous. You have to have severe emotional distress, and you have to have a causal connection between the acts of emotional distress. So the factors 3 and 4 are usually not as hard to prove. The real question is, was what he did reckless, and was it extreme and outrageous? So if it was reckless to send out those photos, and if sending a photo was extreme and outrageous to somebody else that's not that girl, then that could go through. That's subjective. That's very subjective. So that could go either way. That's why I say this one, I'm a toss up on this one. It's really subjective. You got to look at the facts. You got to look at the data. You got to look at what's been submitted to the court. So we had IAD. I think this one may be a little bit more problematic, but if she can prove these first two, she'll get through. If Destiny can defend them, he'll block that claim. This one is difficult. This one, Destiny is pretty f***ed on. In terms of, I believe this one is a very good chance of getting past a motion to dismiss, which is invasion of privacy, public disclosure of private facts. Defendant publicized private information about plaintiff. Information would be highly offensive to a reasonable person, and information is not of legitimate public concern. So legitimate public concern would be, for example, me reporting on Johnny Somali. So Johnny Somali is, running a rampage around Korea. Obviously, that's well known for people, and it's of very big concern for people in Korea. Right now, there's people running through Japan, and they're running through left and right and doing crazy stuff. That's of note to the people of Japan, and also tourists who want to come to both those countries. That's public interest. Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp, public interest, right? Diddy, public interest. These are big cases that people want to know about, and they want to know about the administration of law, the administration of justice. That's public concern. But nudes are one of the things that's pretty clear. A nude, despite what anybody may think, a nude is not of public concern. That is probably the most private thing. So nudes, like intimate images, are probably the most private you're going to get in terms of things that you wouldn't want disclosed to the public. So it's definitely not public concern. It definitely is highly offensive. The average person would be offended by their nude being leaked, unless they're an exhibitionist, unless they're somebody who really likes to show it off at hedonism too. Unless they're that sort of person, they're gonna have a problem with their nudes leaking out. But the first one is the only place where Destiny has a defense. So whether he publicized private information, so his only defense is to say, I didn't do it. The problem is he's now been on stream, from what I record, twice, maybe 3 times or 4 times, at least twice that I saw myself, where he's admitted he sent these images to somebody that was not her. So let me say that one more time. He's been on stream twice and said, at least, maybe more, where he said, I sent the images to somebody. So he's proved the first element pretty much straight up. The only other way for him to attack that first element is to show that those were not private images. Now, some people in the comments, some of Destiny's fans have said that Pixie was sending these images. I said this before, but some of Destiny's fans have said Pixie was sending other people nudes. Now, what needs to be clear is, just because you have an OnlyFans or whatever, I don't know whether she had an OnlyFans or whatever. Let's say, theoretically, hypothetically, let's say she had an OnlyFans. That doesn't mean all of your nudes are up for grabs. If you sent a private nude, even someone like Lily Phillips, the 1,000 guy in a day girl, right? Even her, if she sent a nude to a boyfriend, that is expected between her and her boyfriend. She still maintains an expectation of privacy between her and her boyfriend, even if she has an OnlyFans, even if she does, because that was expected to be private information. Now, if it's the exact same nude she put on her OnlyFans or she put up publicly, then she doesn't. Then that's not private, it's public. But if it's a special nude that's just between you and your partner, you'd have some expectation of privacy in that. But once again, I'm trying to be fair, because they're trying to say, oh, we're not, you're not being fair, you're not listening. No, I'm being overly fair. And I'm even entertaining your arguments where I have not seen any evidence. All I've seen is somebody spurging out in the comments, and that's pretty much it. Okay, let's go over intent, because this is what the Destiny simps were really focused on. So what is the levels of intent here? 15 USC 6851 has intentionally disclosed image without consent. So the intent is whether he intentionally disclosed them without consent. The intent looks at consent and whether or not there was consent. And I know this is a hard concept, particularly for Destiny fans to understand. This is a seriously hard concept for them to understand, but consent. Consent is the key here. It's not whether they're a bad person morally or whatever, like righteously, or they're woke enough or whatever it is, whatever, whether they've got enough points in their DI score, whatever it is, that doesn't matter. It's whether or not there was consent to disclose those images and the intent related there too. So that one, I think, is going to be on the harder level for him to push back against, because it seems like he knew she didn't have consent. I haven't seen any proof that she consented to it. Not yet. Number 2, that's the easiest one for Destiny to get rid of. Publishing a photo without consent with intent to cause substantial emotional stress. So he had to do it intending to cause her emotional stress. That's going to be harder. And that's something people in the comments have said, and that's fair. If any charge is going to go, it's number 2. Number 3, IED. The act has to be intentional or reckless. Now, while that's not as easy to dismiss as 784, it's not completely a pushover either. It's kind of a coin flip, in my opinion. So in terms of easiness for Destiny to fight, number 2 and number 3 in that order are the easiest for Destiny to fight. Number 4 is the hardest. This is the one he's going to have real trouble because there is no intent. Let me say that one more time. Destiny could be completely having good intentions. Complete good intentions. Destiny, he could be such a good person because he cares about her mental health. He doesn't want her to self-delete. It doesn't matter whether he was going to be a white knight. It doesn't matter if he was going to be an ally of all women. It doesn't matter. He disclosed something that was private. If that's true, he's guilty of number 4. It's pretty much simple as that. There was no consent for it. He disclosed it. It's a nude. It's going to be highly offensive. Unless you can prove she leaked that same nude or she gave consent somehow. Number 4 is going to be hardest. So I would say in order of the most damning against him, 4, 1, 3, 2. So 4, probably the easiest to stay in, then 1, then 3, then 2. And the reverse order would be for Destiny to get rid of it.